So in about a week, the PlayStation 5 is released, and you know what happens when a new console comes out? You have a new controller. That was probably the worst segue. Controllers. So the reason I'm talking about this tub is because I was starting to like sort things out in my room because I kind of wanted to start thinking about getting rid of some things, mostly from my collection, because I'm starting to get more interested in manga than collecting physical games, because I tend to don't really use these anymore, and I haven't really ended up making videos about them or anything. I thought it was pretty much a better idea to just probably sell them off to people. I guess I'd just start making a video about controllers instead. So before we go into the tub, because there's a couple interesting things in there. Here's two controllers. This is like such a weird thing. I've never done a video sitting on the floor before. I kind of really like these. I think this generation had probably the best controller setups I can really think of. I think that in terms of like the ergonomics of the controller, this generation has probably nailed it the best. I don't think I've ever held a controller that feels any better than these ones, in all honesty. I think these are like really, really good, like holding controllers. I think like the inclusion of the touchpad's kind of like a weird decision. I'm not entirely sure why I feel like that, but the DualShock, I just love the feel of the DualShock ever since the first version of the controller. I just feel like the DualShock was probably one of the best like feeling controllers that I've ever really held. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Nothing's really changed since the DualShock 1, and it's pretty much been perfectly fine until the PS5 came along and said, nah, we're gonna make them bigger and weird looking. So because I have them out, I guess I just talk about the Switch. These obviously aren't the ones that come with a like pack-in Switch. In terms of the colors anyway, the colors should be switched. They'd be the other way round. So this is my second pair of Joy-Cons. I don't like the Joy-Cons like a whole lot. I think that in terms of how they hold, I feel like they could be so much better. But for what they are and like how they're intended to be used, it's perfectly fine. Like I feel like having one in each hand is okay. I just wish that they were slightly bigger because my hands they're not the smallest hands. They're slightly large. I mean, I guess anyway. Are they big hands? Are they big compared to like a pair of Joy-Cons? I don't really know. But then they came with the Joy-Con grip, which is okay. Again, it's a bit small. I'd say it's kind of comparable to the Wavebird, but slightly smaller. But in terms of like what they're supposed to do, I think they're perfectly fine. And then, get us out of here, this stupid thing, Wham, the Pro Controller. I think this is probably the best. I love the Pro Controller so much. I feel like it just feels so good. I mean, like when I first like got this and was playing around with it, it just feels like so good to use. I mean, it's hard to really describe because I don't really play I don't really use an Xbox controller. I think like the feel of an Xbox controller isn't really what I'm like kind of interested in. I feel like it's a bit too clunky. But this one feels perfectly fine. I mean, I absolutely love how this feels, like the stick placements and the button placements, how they feel. The travel on the buttons I think is perfectly fine. The D-pad is absolutely awesome compared to the buttons on the standard Joy-Cons. I think it's good. I think it's better than a standard Joy-Con, and like thankfully the price has slightly gone down for the Pro controllers now, so you can get them like not as expensive as they were, but it's still fairly expensive. I mean, it's still got all the functionality. It has the gyro sensors and accelerometers. I'm pretty sure they still have a HD rumble, so that's perfectly like fine if you're interested in that. So I mean, you know, it's good. If you're playing the Switch docked, I think the Pro Controller is probably the way to go, honestly. It's probably the best way to enjoy it. So now's the time. Tub. The tub has come. So the thing that made me want to like make this video was this controller. I don't know what the hell it is. It's a Microsoft controller. It's called the Sidewinder. I don't know, but it feels awful. Absolutely terrible feeling controller. I mean, this D-pad, it's not even a D-pad, it's a circle that you press. It doesn't even feel like you're pressing in a direction. It's a very weird controller. I mean, like, these click to like, they're so loud. I don't know what's up with these buttons, but like, it's a Microsoft branded controller, and I'm pretty sure this came out before the original Xbox. I'm not entirely sure. I don't like how it feels. It feels awful. And it's USB. So like, it was made for PCs. I don't know what's up with that. Ooh. So in here, if we move this multi-tap out of the way, we have not one, but 2 wavebirds. I don't know why. I really like the GameCube controllers. I think the way they feel is great. I think when Nintendo like designed the the GameCube controller as a whole, I feel like they kind of nailed it pretty well. I mean, everything feels pretty good. The Wavebird obviously would be slightly different in weight compared to like a normal GameCube controller, only because of the batteries that make it weigh slightly different. The only issue I really have with the Wavebirds is they don't have a rumble feature. If they somehow included that, it probably would have wasted more battery, but I feel like that probably would have made the Wavebirds like one of the best controllers, honestly. Aside from like how thick this is a chunky boy. I don't know why I have this, because I've never used it. It's just a normal multi-tap for the PS1, but I'd never had a use for it. I mean, I bought it because I saw it and I thought that it was really like a cool little just accessory for the PS1. I never had a use for it. For some reason, like the feet are fuzzy. I don't know why. Don't know why the feet are fuzzy. It probably would have been better off with rubber, but it's up to them, I guess. I don't know. It has a super short cable as well. I don't know why it's so short. The cable and the controllers probably would have made up for it, but a super short cable for what it's really worth. But you get like 3 extra... Is this 3 or 4? You get some extra memory card slots. Anyway, so even if you didn't want to use like the extra controller ports for the other controllers, you could still use the memory card slots. So you could have like up to 4 on the system at one time. I'm only saying 4 because I don't know if it actually covers like, I don't know if this bit covers up like the thing what the controller goes. I don't know if it covers up where the memory card slot is. But yeah, I mean, this will be useful for extra memory slots if you needed it. What a piece of trash. If you didn't know, Guitar Hero had a couple games on the DS, and this was a controller that came with it. This was Guitar Hero On Tour controller. So this wouldn't work with every model of like DS, obviously, because not every version of the DS had a Game Boy Advance slot for you to plug this into. I believe this does only work with like the original DS and the DS Lite. I mean, instead of the 5 buttons, you only get 4. This is like a super uncomfortable piece of hardware to use. It just doesn't feel very good. I mean, this is only really used for like children, or made for children, I'd say. But even then, like, I think they'd struggle to get the hand around it. I think it's too big for like children in terms of like their grip. I don't think they'd be able to hold this very well, but I think it's too small for adults as well. And then including the weight of the system as well, having to hold it like a book. I mean, it's just not, it's a very uncomfortable controller. And then, I mean, like the only interesting thing is the stylus pick. I mean, that's like the only interesting thing that comes out of it, I guess. The Wii U Pro Controller. Everyone forgot about the Wii U. The Wii U's dead now. Stuff happens. You gotta move on. New things happen. And I mean, like, look at this. It just screams the future. I didn't really like the gloss on this. I don't like gloss on anything for video games, especially because of how like sweaty your hands can get. It just shows up really badly. It shows scratches really easily. I don't really know. I just don't really like the idea of having a glossy controller for some reason. But I mean, other than that, it's okay. It feels okay. I mean, the shoulder buttons aren't that great. The triggers are okay. The placement of the analog sticks was better on the Switch Pro controller, honestly. But I mean, this is fine. It serves its purpose okay. It's too bad I didn't get my full use of it, I feel. I have a few GameCube controllers. So I have these 2. I'm not entirely sure which one actually came with my GameCube originally, but I have these 2, the 2 Wavebirds. Then there's the Smash Bros GameCube controller, like the Wii U one, the Smash Wii U GameCube controller. I have that somewhere, I'm not entirely sure where. So I have 5 GameCube controllers on a console that only has 4 ports. I mean, I got one backup. I mean, that's fine. I got a backup controller. So I've kind of already like said about what I feel about the GameCube controllers. I think they're perfectly fine. The rumble, I believe, is just here. So taking the rumble out for the batteries, it probably just makes sense, I guess. But yeah, I like the GameCube controllers. Probably one of the best controllers I think ever made. Apart from like a couple things. I feel like the D-pad is a bit too small for a standard like console controller. I'm pretty sure this is like exactly the same as one on a Game Boy Advance, I think, or a normal Game Boy, I don't remember which. But yeah, I like this. So I have 5 GameCube controllers, and then this. Please don't ask me. It feels awful, absolutely terrible. I don't know. It's a very awful feeling controller. Very, very cheap. Not entirely sure where it came from, but it's yeah, no, I'm grateful for my 5 other GameCube controllers. So here's a sad thing, the PS3, I like the DualShock 3. I think it's okay apart from the LNR2s. They feel a bit off. I don't like how they don't like concave to your finger as opposed to like other controllers, but I have 2. And both of these stopped working. I'm not entirely sure why. I mean, like, I don't know what's up with these. But for some reason, they just stopped working. I mean, for some reason, I think with this one, it started out with the triggers starting to not work, and then the battery on this one just died. I think it was the battery. It was either the battery or the board inside just stopped working. I think I prefer the DualShock 3. No, the DualShock 2 to like the DualShock 3. But this is the reason I stopped using my PS3 like a long time ago, because the controllers just stopped working. Kind of sucks, but it is what it is, I guess. The PS2 controller, the DualShock 2, the absolute monster of controllers when it comes to durability. You could probably launch this into space at the moon and it would survive. It's like the controller equivalent of like the Nokia 3210 or something. But yeah, these controllers are like super durable. They feel pretty good compared to other Sony controllers at the same generation. Yeah, I mean, I spent like so much time with this controller. I like it. There's not a whole lot you can really say. I mean, like I said, the DualShock hasn't really changed. Everything pretty much feels the same, and I feel like the DualShock 2 is probably one of the best controllers. In terms of like the DualShock line, I feel like the DualShock 2 is probably one of the best. The Dreamcast, what a weird contraption this is. Just like, look at the face of this. It just like, it screams what the future is supposed to be. There's a lot I don't understand about this controller. Firstly, why is the analog stick not rubber? Why has it just got little like nodules on it? The face buttons are really small. I'm not entirely sure why. The D-pad's okay. I mean, you can put the middle of your thumb there and rock it about, and that's okay. Start button's just a big old triangle. The VMU slot, I don't understand the VMU. A normal memory card would have been perfectly fine. I just don't understand the point of the VMU slot. Speaking of the VMU, I don't remember where I put it. Oh, it's a sad day. No high-pitched beeps for me.
Oh, you're not gonna believe this, mate. I found my other Dreamcast controller. And check it out, this one's green.
But the triggers are thin and like have some weird travel to them, and then the cable for some reason sits at the front of the controller and loops at the back with this. I mean, I don't understand what the point of this controller was. I don't know what's up with this. It just like, I don't know, why can I twist the knob? Ah, this controller is showing some battle scars. Ah, the DualShock one. This has like seen a lot of better days. Look at the analog stick on that. Look how sad that is. If there's ever a controller that caught the sads, this is one. I mean, this is one that I've had since childhood. This would have been one that I had with my original PlayStation Fat. So this is like over 20 years old, easily. But yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, it is a very good controller. It stood up to the test of time really well, and surprisingly, it hasn't really yellowed. It's still like grey, the normal grey it's supposed to be. I don't remember if the DualShock one really like yellowed at all, like certain other plastics at the time. But yeah, this still looks perfectly fine. I love how the DualShock one feels. Everything feels so tight. Like all the buttons feel good, and I like it. It's a great controller. What's better than one PlayStation Move controller? Two PlayStation Move controllers. And what's better than two, where is it? The navigation controller. Why do I have two Move controllers and a navigation controller, even though I never had a game that used this? I don't know. I don't know why I have them. Can't say I've used these enough to really say what like the feel of them is. For motion controls, they were okay as long as the balls were visible. They did their job perfectly fine. I mean, they feel okay. At least like the triggers are concaved, so your fingers fit into them okay, as opposed to a certain other controller. But yeah, I don't really mind this. I think it's okay. I feel like the button placements, especially the start and select, are in a weird place. I feel like these are okay. They're not perfect. They're not the best controllers. I mean, you could probably bludgeon someone with this, but we'll not talk about that right now. NES. I feel like one of the first home console controllers, it starts out okay. I just don't know why it's a solid rectangle for you to like... It doesn't feel good. It's okay to do that with, but it's not comfortable. I didn't have an NES growing up, so I can't exactly say how I feel about this. I just know that these kind of feel like sweets, like the little weird sweets. I don't remember what they're called, but they feel like those, and it always reminds me of that. But yeah, for what they're worth, they don't really need much more than this, especially at the time of the NES. They're perfectly a fine controller. They do what they need to. Why does this exist again? It's a PlayStation 1 mouse. It's not the official one. Apparently it's by a company called Max Play. I've never heard of them. The old ball mouse. Back in my day, we had to navigate our screen with a ball. Yeah, I mean, I never used this. Again, I picked this up because I thought it was like an interesting accessory for the PS1. I just thought it was kind of neat. Oh, you never know when you're gonna need a second NES controller. So this didn't fit in the box, but we're almost done with this, so I might as well show it now. The NES Zapper, or the Super Scope, big old thing. It's obsolete now, you can't really use it unless you have an old CRT TV. From what I remember of trying this, it was okay. I bought this without like the rubber bit on the scope, so I'm not entirely sure how that bit worked, but I mean, it's okay. It's kind of fun to just like mess around with this and pretend that it still works. How many batteries did this use? A whole 6. What is that? AA? That's a lot of batteries. That's a lot of juice. And then it came with a standalone signal. I don't know what this is. What is this? It's just a receiver. I mean, I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this worked like the NES Zapper, where you'd fire at the screen, it would show a white box, and then that would... I don't really remember. I think that's how it worked, in a similar way. But if you're pointing at the white box, then you hit something. If you're not, then you didn't. The dog bone controller. I don't know what's up with this, but every SNES... Well, the two SNES controllers that I've had, both feel really mushy. I'm not sure if that's because of how old these are now, or what it is, or like these are super yellow, or like I don't really know, but the two SNES controllers that I've owned have both not felt great. I don't know why. Like the start and select buttons don't feel like they work properly. The L and R buttons feel really mushy. A, B, X, Y don't feel like they respond properly. I've also noticed that the L and R on these controllers is different. So that one has like it printed and that's embossed into the controller button. I just noticed that, but it's certainly okay. I mean, it feels okay. It sits in a hand alright. I mean, it's better than the NES controller. But yeah, I feel like it's okay. It's not the best. It feels alright. Yeah. It's a controller that does a thing. Okay, 2 more weird controllers. I don't know what this is. I'm pretty sure it came with like a plug and play controller, like console thing. So it's not the best quality. Nowhere near the best quality. It feels awful. Yeah, there's nothing to say about this. If it looks cheap, then it is cheap. You could probably get everything you would want to know about this controller just by looking at it. Can you hear that? I don't think anything's like secured in there. So who remembers Mad Catz? What even happened to Mad Catz? Are they still around? The Mad Catz Xbox controller. I mean, this one takes more after the S controller than the Juke, which I don't have. But I mean, I never used this. I didn't have a reason to use this because I had the standard S controller. But just by holding this, I can say that I preferred like the S controller over this one, like any day. Mad Catz, if you didn't know, made a bunch of third-party controllers for consoles. Don't know if they still do. I don't know if they like went into administration or something, but yeah, this is just one of the really weird controllers that they made. I mean, it has rubber grips on the side. Weird little controller. Speaking of Xbox, here's the standard original Xbox controller. You can't say Xbox One, can you? I mean, comparing this to like the Dreamcast controller, I prefer it a lot more. I mean, ergonomically, they're very similar, but the triggers are slightly wider. The analog sticks are rubber instead of plastic. I don't like the D-pad as much. It's just a big circle that you push in a direction. I'm never really a big fan of those. They just don't feel that great. In terms of like how it looks and how it like feels, I feel like it's okay. It could be certainly worse. And then like there's the big old Xbox logo in the middle. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And apparently that's kind of works with Xbox, because I mean, apart from like slight adjustments, this hasn't really changed. This has pretty much been the same format of all controllers that Microsoft has made. Couple more. Yeah, these are like the last two controllers. The Sega Mega Drive or Master System controller. I don't know what's up with mine, but yeah, it's probably seen better days. But then there's this one. I don't know who made this. Competition Pro Series 2. Wow. Honeybee. I'm gonna assume that that's the company that made this. But yeah, this one stood up really, really well. I mean, and it actually feels really good as well. For a third-party controller, this is like super good. I like how this one feels compared to the original, especially like the mushy D-pad. I don't know what happened with that. But like compared to the SNES controller, I feel like this is okay. I feel like it's slightly better than the SNES controller because it's larger, it's more rounded, even though that's literally just like two circles with a rectangle in the middle. I like how much this sticks out more to like fit into your hand a bit better. I feel like overall, I prefer the Mega Drive controller to the SNES, but that's personally just me. And then, last but not least, the Sega Saturn controller, which is pretty much the same as the Mega Drive controller, apart from like the addition of the L and R buttons, which have no travel. It's like the rest of the controller feels, it's okay. It's a bit too lightweight for me. It makes it feel a bit cheaper, but it's perfectly fine. I mean, apart from the L and R buttons and the weird choice of D-pad, I feel like it's perfectly fine. You have some grip underneath, which is good. But again, the L and R buttons don't have any travel and it just makes it a bit harder to use. So I guess that was it. I mean, if I could choose like some of my favorite controllers, it would probably easily have to be like the Switch Pro controller and the DualShock 4. There are a couple other controllers I have lying around that I didn't mention in this or show. One being the GameCube bongos for Donkey Konga, there you go. And then like the N64 controller, which I have in a bag with my N64, which I didn't really feel like getting out because it's not worth it. But yeah, I feel like it's pretty much it. I've said all I really have to say about these. I mean, this video went on for a bit longer than I was anticipating. Yeah, I feel like I got to talk about some things for a bit, but yeah, these are all weird controllers. If you have your favorite, then I guess tell me which one it is in the comments below. Also, I also forgot HTC Vive. I also have one of those. I also keep that in a box. Don't want to get it out because it's always an effort to get it out. Also, I forgot about two others, Logitech G25 and the Sega Saturn Racing controller. Two other ones that I completely forgot about that I just remembered. Yeah, this is a weird video. But that was kind of it. After what, like nearly 4 months of disappearing, I just make a video about controllers and then disappear again, so that's cool. But yeah, okay, I'm gonna go over here now. Goodbye. I gotta get the stuff back in the box now. How am I gonna do that?